USS Thresher, a nuclear-powered attack submarine, sank and broke apart during a test dive off Cape Cod. Twisted pieces were later found on the ocean floor.
April 10th, 1963. A piercing hiss slices through the air inside the USS Thresher. It's the sound of the Atlantic Ocean bursting into the submarine at a pressure of 2,000 pounds per square inch. This is the beginning of the end. In less than 10 minutes, the most advanced submarine on Earth, along with her entire crew, will vanish from existence. The Navy called it an unavoidable tragedy. But the thing nobody tells you is that it was entirely avoidable. The newly decoded black box recordings prove it. The final sounds from the deep don't just tell us how they perished, they tell us why. The fatal countdown. The official story is neat, it's clean. On the morning of April 10, 1963, the USS Thresher, the most advanced nuclear attack submarine in the world, was conducting deep dive tests 220 miles off the coast of Cape Cod. At 9:13 a.m., the submarine reported, and I quote, experiencing minor difficulties. Then a few garbled messages. Finally, silence. The Navy's conclusion? A pipe fitting no bigger than your fist had failed, spraying salt water onto an electrical panel, causing the nuclear reactor to shut down. Without power, the sub silently drifted down past its crush depth, where it imploded under the immense pressure of the Atlantic. A tragic but straightforward accident. But not all things are what they seem. You see, that simple story falls apart the moment you hear the recordings. For decades, the acoustic data and black box recordings were classified, hidden away from public view. Now they've been decoded, and they tell a terrifyingly different story. The first sound is not one of a minor leak, it's a violent, high-pressure roar. Imagine a fire hose filled with sand and gravel blasting away at a metal wall. That's the sound of thousands of pounds per square inch of seawater atomizing as it rips through a pipe and into the engine room. This wasn't a minor difficulty. This was a catastrophic breach. Within seconds, the salt water, a perfect conductor of electricity, hit the sensitive control panels. The recordings capture a chaotic flurry of electrical arcs and short circuits, a sound like continuous lightning strikes in a metal box. Many people are crazy about the idea of a simple power outage, but the tapes reveal the lights didn't just go out, they were violently snuffed out as the ship's nerve center was fried. Then comes the most damning evidence. The official report says the crew tried to blow the main ballast tanks to surface. This is their emergency up button, a system that uses high-pressure air to force water out of the tanks, making the sub buoyant. The Navy claimed it simply didn't work fast enough. The thing nobody tells you is why it didn't work. The audio reveals the sound of the high-pressure air valves being opened, but instead of a sustained rush of air, there's a sharp crack, followed by a choked, sputtering hiss that quickly fades to nothing. It's the unmistakable sound of ice. The compressed air rushing through the pipes, expanded and supercooled, freezing the moisture in the line solid. The crew's last hope of survival, their only way to the surface, was clogged with ice. And here's the kicker, the part of the story that changes everything. The Navy knew this could happen. Internal memos from years prior warned that these systems lacked moisture separators, a critical flaw. They knew their emergency system could fail in the exact way it did. The crew of the Thresher never had a chance. They were pulling a lever that was never designed to work when they needed it most. This wasn't an accident. It was a known defect that was never fixed. The 10-minute timeline of a minor difficulty was a lie designed to hide a decade of negligence. The crew was fighting a battle they couldn't win, but the enemy wasn't the ocean. Warnings ignored. To understand the disaster, you have to understand the Thresher itself. It wasn't just a submarine, it was a statement. The lead boat of a new class, she was designed to hunt and take out Soviet submarines in the deep, silent battleground of the Cold War. She was faster, quieter, and could dive deeper than any submarine before her. Launched in 1960, she was the absolute pinnacle of American naval technology. The problem is she was rushed. The pressure to get these advanced hunters into the water was immense. The thing is, when you rush, you make mistakes. And in the world of deep-sea submarines, mistakes are paid for in lives. The core of the problem lay in a technique called silver brazing. Instead of welding critical high-pressure pipes, thousands of joints were glued together with a silver alloy. It was faster and cheaper than welding, but it was also far, far weaker. During the Thresher's construction at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, quality control was shockingly poor. X-rays of these crucial joints were often faked or improperly reviewed. In fact, later investigations on her sister ships found that a staggering 14% of these brazed joints were substandard and potentially faulty. 14%. On a vessel with thousands of such joints, that means hundreds of potential ticking time bombs, any one of which could fail under the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. Many people are crazy about the idea that this was a 1 in a million failure. The truth is, a failure was statistically inevitable. The warnings were there, loud and clear. Before the Thresher's final voyage, she had spent months in overhaul fixing a long list of problems. During this time, other Navy personnel had raised alarms about the silver brazing technique. A shocking number of these joints were failing during routine pressure tests on other submarines, but the reports were buried in bureaucracy. The Navy had invested too much money and prestige in the Thresher class to admit there was a fundamental design flaw. They chose to risk it. They sent the Thresher back to sea with those faulty joints still in place. It's a wow factor that's hard to even comprehend. The very pipe that likely failed was scheduled to be re-inspected, but the work was deferred to get the submarine back on patrol faster. They rolled the dice with the lives of 129 men. The final fatal dive on April 10th was supposed to be a test of the repairs she had undergone. Instead, it became the ultimate test of the corners they had cut. The disaster wasn't caused by a single broken part, it was caused by a broken system. 2,000 pounds per square inch. Let's go back to the recordings. After the choke sound of the frozen ballast valves, the acoustic data reveals a series of horrifying new sounds. The Thresher is now dead in the water, a silent, powerless coffin sinking deeper into the abyss. At this point, the crew knows the terrible truth. They are not going back up. The submarine is descending at a terrifying rate, passing its operational depth limit of 1,300 feet. Every 100 feet deeper adds another 60 pounds per square inch of pressure to every single part of the hull. The boat begins to groan and creak, the sounds of a giant beast being squeezed to its breaking point. This is a psychological torture that is impossible for us on the surface to fully grasp. The thing nobody tells you about a submarine implosion is that it's not a single event. The decoded audio proves this. What was long described as a single bang was actually a rapid, violent series of catastrophic failures. The first sounds are the smaller components giving way. The weakest points, glass on depth gauges, pipes, and external fittings, begin to pop and shatter. Then the larger structures begin to buckle. The recordings show a sickening, tearing sound of metal ripping apart. This is the hull itself, the 2-inch thick high-tensile steel beginning to fold under the weight of the ocean. For the crew, these final seconds would have been an unimaginable scene of destruction, with water bursting through failing seals at the speed of sound. The final sound, recorded by the accompanying surface ship, the Skylark, is the end of everything. At an estimated depth of 2,400 feet, nearly half a mile down and almost double its designed limit, the Thresher's pressure hull failed completely. The implosion itself lasted less than 1/10 of a second. The energy released was equivalent to detonating thousands of pounds of TNT. It instantly heated the air inside the hull to the temperature of the sun's surface, turning the submarine and everything in it to dust and twisted shards of metal. The mystery was, for a long time, what that final sound truly represented. The Navy's sanitized report simply called it the end, but the decoded tapes, filled with the sounds of failing systems the Navy knew were faulty, proved that the final implosion wasn't the accident. It was just the inevitable violent punctuation mark at the end of a story of negligence and cover-up. The accident happened long before in the offices of men who chose speed over safety. They didn't just find wreckage on the ocean floor, they found evidence of a crime. The 60-year cover-up. In the aftermath of the sinking, the Navy did two things. First, they launched the most extensive deep-sea search in history, eventually finding the debris field scattered across a square mile of the ocean floor. Second, and more importantly, they started building a wall of secrecy. This is where the story gets really dark. We're not just talking about a tragedy anymore. We're talking about a deliberate multi-decade effort to hide the truth from the families of the lost crew and from the American people. The Court of Inquiry was a masterclass in deflection. While it correctly identified a pipe failure as the initiating event, it carefully avoided assigning blame or acknowledging the stacks of prior warnings about faulty brazing in the frozen ballast system. The final report was classified, its most damning details locked away. Now you might be thinking, why? Why go to such lengths to hide the truth? The official answer is simple and cynical: the Cold War. Admitting that their most advanced submarine was fundamentally flawed would have been a massive propaganda victory for the Soviet Union. It would have shaken public confidence in the Navy and its nuclear submarine program. So they crafted a narrative of an unforeseeable accident. They sacrificed the truth to protect their image. But the thing is, what if that cover-up wasn't just about hiding their own mistakes? What if it was about hiding something far bigger? You see, many people are crazy about the idea that the Thresher was alone out there, but she sank right in the middle of a major transit lane for Soviet submarines heading to Cuba and the American East Coast. This has led to a persistent and chilling theory that the Thresher wasn't just testing its systems, it was actively hunting a Soviet sub. The theory goes that an underwater collision occurred, a silent, brutal crash in the deep that crippled both vessels. The pipe failure in this scenario wasn't a random event, but a direct result of combat damage. A cover-up in this case would be essential. Admitting to an undeclared naval battle with the Soviets would have risked sparking World War III. So, was the story of a faulty pipe a lie to prevent a nuclear war? Then there's an even darker path. The shoddy workmanship, the faked inspections. Was it all just negligence, or was it sabotage? At the height of the Cold War, intelligence agencies were everywhere. A single well-placed saboteur in the shipyard could ensure that a key piece of American military hardware had a fatal built-in flaw. A ticking time bomb that would only go off under the extreme pressures of a deep dive. It sounds like something out of a spy movie, but the documents prove the flaws were real. The only question is how they got there. The wildest theory, however, comes from analyzing those last, garbled messages. Some researchers claim they described something completely unexpected, something that wasn't another submarine. They believe the Thresher encountered a USO, an unidentified submerged object. Did it run into something in the deep that it couldn't explain? Something that disabled it with a technology we can't comprehend. The Navy would have 1,000 reasons to cover that up, burying it under a more believable story of mechanical failure. The hero of this story, Captain James Bryant, fought for the declassified documents that proved the Navy's negligence. But does this kind of thing happen overnight? Do these massive institutions just make a single mistake? The release of these documents proved the sinking was an avoidable disaster, but they might also be the first layer of an even deeper mystery, hiding a truth we are not meant to know. The 129 men weren't lost to a Soviet torpedo, but to a spreadsheet, a deadline, and a lie. What do you think? Was this a tragic mistake or something far more sinister? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more hidden stories. Does the price of national security justify burying the truth?